Think about the last comment that got under your skin. Not the worst thing anyone has ever said, just a small, offhand line you found yourself still turning over on the drive home. Those words, on their own, carry absolutely no physical weight. They are just sound waves vibrating in the air or pixels glowing on a screen. They only get their teeth when they hit a spot where you are already tender. The words press on a verdict you have already drafted out yourself, and your own mind steps forward and signs the paper for them. If the damage lived inside the words themselves, every person would bleed exactly the same way. The difference between the person who carries that stone in their coat for a week and the person who barely blinks is a matter of training, not a different level of sensitivity. This is a mechanical skill, executed in the half-breath before the signature happens. When someone takes a shot at you, the reaction does not feel like a choice you are making. It arrives suddenly, like a shift in the weather. Heat rises in your chest, your jaw tightens. A comeback forms on your tongue before you even decided to speak. It is easy to assume that people who appear untouchable in these moments simply feel nothing. In reality, they experience that exact same initial physical flush. Their composure depends entirely on a trained reflex that is triggered in the 2 seconds immediately after that flare. 2,000 years ago, a man named Epictetus was born into slavery in what is now Turkey. He was owned, his leg broken and left crooked for life. Yet from that absolute physical subjugation, he found a precise mechanism for emotional control. He left behind a specific instruction. It is not the person who strikes you or reviles you who causes the insult. The insult is your own judgment that you are being attacked. He drew a stark dividing line. The other man's mouth is not up to you. Your opinion of what comes out of it is entirely, stubbornly yours. Epictetus was describing a mechanical truth, a physical process inside the human skull that modern science is now able to measure. Look at this cross-section of the brain. Deep inside sits the amygdala. It is a primitive alarm built to guess at danger. Because speed kept our ancestors alive, an incoming threat instantly trips this alarm before the thinking part of your brain can even read the room. But the alarm is just the beginning of the chain. There is a gap, roughly 2 seconds, between that initial spike and the moment your prefrontal cortex, the slow logical center, comes online. Consider a man named Daniel. Every few weeks, he would go completely rigid at his mother's dinner table. She would offer a gentle "I told you so" about his failed marriage, and that simple phrase bypassed his logic and tripped his alarm instantly. The first step to hijacking this gap is incredibly small. You silently attach a word to the feeling. That is shame. That is anger. You name the emotion to buy time. In 2007, researchers at UCLA placed subjects in brain scanners and tested exactly this. When people simply attached a label to their negative emotion, the physical alarm in the amygdala quieted down. Putting the storm into language actively turns down the volume knob. That action bought Daniel his 2 seconds. The next step is reappraisal. He looked at his mother's jab and saw an old woman's clumsy way of feeling less afraid for her son. A critic tearing you down is almost always operating out of a shortage they already feel in themselves. When you name the feeling and reappraise the source, you strip the weapon of its edge before that 2-second window closes. A common objection arises right here. If you refuse to react, aren't you just rolling over and acting like a doormat? There is a stark difference between a doormat and a fortress. The doormat stays quiet because the insult breached the walls and defeated him. The fortress stays quiet because the insult never made it through the gate. The person who fires back in angry response actually surrenders. You hand your attacker your evening, your drive home, and the space in your head at 3 in the morning. Here is what happens biologically over time. Every time you successfully reinterpret a slight, you are physically thickening a neural pathway. You are laying down pavement so that the calm response fires faster the next time. Composure isn't an innate gift. It's the result of practicing that tiny gap until the fortress becomes your default biology. Your judgment is the only territory that is genuinely yours. No critic can break into it unless you explicitly open the door and invite them inside. The next provocation that comes your way is nothing more than a bill left on a table for your signature. Try to catch just one comment in the gap this week. Name the feeling, look at where it came from, and consciously leave the words on the floor. You decide how the rest of your day feels. The pen to write your inner weather is, and always was, in your hand.